So my name is Amy Wolf. I'm the programming coordinator for the Osterville Village Library. Thank you so much for being here on this little bit of rainy Wednesday. And a special hello to our friends joining us on Zoom as well. I just want to give a little introduction on Pamela Lowell. She has spent her entire career as a psychotherapist, tending to people whom she thought most needed healing: the traumatized, the depressed, the grief-stricken, and adolescents in placements or foster care. She has also written several books in different genres, 2 young adult novels, a parenting book, and in 2017, she even co-edited a humorous cookbook. A few years ago, however, she decided to spend less time in her role as clinical supervisor for a minority-owned not-for-profit and to begin the journey towards semi-retirement.
Not there yet.
Turning to her passions for birding, art, and the environment, she started to envision how to combine all three and help contribute to what needs healing most of all, our Mother Earth. She decided to begin painting large watercolors of osprey, their nests and platforms, and to donate them to local nature organizations to use as fundraisers. Last summer, she jumped at the chance to accompany Mass Audubon in their weekly osprey nest monitoring project on the Westport River. She initially thought she'd get some photos of cute osprey chicks to use in her paintings, but she got way more out of the adventure than she ever could have imagined. Without further ado, here's Pamela Lowell.
That's all right. There we go. Thank you, everybody, for coming. This is, I'm remembering meeting with Amy and with Sue as well on a January, I think, or February morning here. There was snow. And on the monitor in the library down, I was very impressed with the library. I thought it was amazing. But on the monitor downstairs, they had like a fireplace going, like a faux fireplace. I was like, oh, that's cute. And then I started talking to Amy, and she's like, oh, well, you should see it in the summer because we have a live cam of an osprey nest in the summer, at least at the beginning of the summer. And I thought to myself, well, okay, I definitely have to give a presentation here. This would be great. So thank you for coming. Amy's right. We're going to spend some time talking about ospreys and a little bit about art and a little bit about community. And I'll have time for questions at the end. Let's see. I think that's good. That's a good intro. First, we need to hear a word from our sponsors, however. Anybody recognize that sound? Yeah. Ospreys. We hear them all the time. Now we're so lucky that they came back and that they thrived. So let's begin at the beginning. All right, now I need to enter. There we go. So this is the beginning. This is my beginning anyway. I'll give you a little bit of background on me. I started out as an art teacher. I graduated Rutgers University in 1980. That's me, my little baby face. I know I look very much the same as I did then. And I was working with adolescents at a, at a residential treatment facility down near Washington, D.C. So I was teaching art. And I liked it. It was really fun to work with those kids. But while I was down there, I met this woman, and her name is Ann Mugler. She was the first social worker therapist I'd ever met in my life. People didn't do therapy a whole lot back then, but she was doing it. And she was like meeting with the kids and getting into their stories and talking to their families if they had a family. I thought, I want that job. I think I want to do that, not art teaching. And so I went back to school right away within a couple of years, and I got my social work degree. And that's me again in 2020. I ended up back sort of at the end of my career in the way things go at another residential treatment facility. But this time I was a clinical director. So I did a lot of supervision. I supervised 5 clinicians and did trauma training for staff. So this is me in a training. And we used to do role plays a lot. So the staff would love that because they got to pretend they were like an unruly teenager. And then one of them, and then the other would be the staff. And we would talk about better ways to deal with these kids' traumas. So I come very much from a trauma lens and from a therapy lens. I am not an ornithologist. So if you're thinking about asking me some really hardball questions at the end, I am probably going to defer to Susan, who will probably be able to answer. See, she's like, what, huh? Like, you're going to answer the hardball Osprey question. Maybe, maybe not. But you know what? I bet we have people in the audience who can answer too. So, all right, I got to remember how to do this next. So the adventure begins. So in May of 2022, I had signed up with Mass Audubon to, oops, I think I have to try to get her out of there. I don't know, Amy's going to do it for me. Anyway, signed up with Mass Audubon out of Westport, Massachusetts. So you probably know where that is. It's not that far, maybe 30 miles away on the south coast of Massachusetts, kind of in between Fall River and New Bedford on the coast there. And mostly I had signed up, and you'll hear a little bit more about this, you know, Amy's right, to try to get more photographs that I could use in my paintings. So here I am, the very first day. This is Matt Zucconi. He's 24 years old. So I worked with a lot of nice young people. And he was the captain of the boat. He had just learned how to operate a boat a month earlier. So we had some adventures. It was very exciting. He knows everything. You can write whatever you want, you know, and I did write some funny things that had happened. So this is me with like lots and lots of joy on my face. As you can see, we're not hearing the motor because I can. So little did I know then that I know now what this really was going to entail. I didn't really realize it was going to entail, for some reason, didn't think I was going to have to climb really tall ladders. And I have always been afraid of heights. This is true. You can ask any of my friends. And the very first day I went out there, Matt was like, okay, you know, go on up. And I was like, oh no, like if I don't do it, it's over. Like I have to do this as part of the volunteering job, because what we're doing is, and that's a magnificent nest, by the way, isn't it just magnificent? We are checking every week. We go out once a week for about 3 hours, 3-hour shifts. And we're checking about 100 nests on the Westport River. Unbeknownst to me, it is one of the densest osprey populations on the entire East Coast. Didn't know that. There are a few that are more on the Connecticut River and in Florida. I think they have a bit more density, but even more dense than out here on the Cape. And you've got a lot on the Cape. Somebody handed me a picture before I started. Look at this beautiful picture of an osprey nest in a tree. So thank you for that picture. I'm going to treasure that. So anyway, so once a week we go out, we are monitoring the population as a whole. So we're counting eggs, chicks, fledging, how many fledge at the end. But we're also doing something called translocation. And this is the most interesting part of that experience that I'm going to share with you. And you'll hear more about it as we kind of go along. But what it is that for the past 5 years, Westport Audubon, our little Society, our Audubon chapter, has had 12 chicks around 5 or 6 years old that are translocated from Westport to Illinois. Because in Illinois, their population is still in danger. So I'm going to talk with you about how that happens and how that works and show you some pictures of that. And it's really incredible. So here we go. Let's see what's next. That's a little bit more of the view on our marshes. They probably look similar to your marshes out here, but you know, and there's our little friend up there flying overhead. And it's just beautiful, peaceful. You see, you know, as you see out here on the Cape, all sorts of different birds too. Besides osprey, you'll see swans and cormorants and kingfishers and also everything that you have here. Probably very similar population of birds. Here's another volunteer fill. So they would go out. So it would usually be about 3 people on the boat. You'll see a little drawing that I did of the boat at a time. So 3 folks, 3 hours, checking eggs and nests and taking down data. This guy here, he's an interesting fellow. So I got to know some of the volunteers. He's in charge of the city of Westport is trying to, as you are on the Cape, find more nitrogen-free septic, right? We don't want nitrogen going into our septic here either in the Cape. We don't want it in our area either. So he's kind of in charge of that project. He worked for the EPA of Massachusetts for almost his whole life in doing legal work. So he's a really cool guy. Let's see next. So here's what you see up there. And some of you probably already have seen this, maybe on a webcam. They're just gorgeous. I was knocked out on I couldn't believe how beautiful they were. 1 to 4 eggs are rare, 3 is the average. 3. I've never seen 5. I don't know if we've ever had 5. 3 is the average. They're gorgeous. You see all sorts of things in them. Unfortunately, if you're looking at webcams, you also sometimes see plastic gets up there, fishing line gets up there. They are hoarders. They like to decorate their nests, their homes, like we do. And so here is little corn cob. There's some shells. Like, what are they doing with the corn cob? They don't eat corn. There's 2 corn cobs here. They don't eat corn. So one week there was a whole ring of corn cobs ringing around the eggs. It's just incredible. It's really, really, really interesting. So let's see. You can't see those 2, but sometimes you'll see a white one. I call that room with a view. This is one of the sketches that I did for my book. So immediately during this experience, I take photographs of birds all the time anyway. I'm a birder. And I don't think it's any accident that a lot of therapists love nature and love birding too. You know, we're dealing with, and people that have jobs like that, we sort of need that solitude and that healing of nature for ourselves. So right at the beginning, I would take photographs. And I remember I didn't really even have a vision of writing a book. Again, my last book was in 2017. I co-edited it, but the last book I had written was in 2008. And it's a lot to do a book. I was like, yeah, I'm done with that. But as soon as I started this project, it's like, I think people would be interested in learning about this. If they like birds, if they like ospreys, this is really an interesting story and how the things happen. So, you know, when you're up there that high, you just see a view of those marshes that I guess, you know, maybe drones get that view, but most of us don't see that. Most of us don't get that opportunity. So we'll go over some facts about osprey. It takes them about a week, laying an egg every other day, to finish their clutch. And I just said that about the eggs that are rare. It takes about 5 weeks till they hatch. And the female mostly spends time incubating them. So these are all my photographs and videos. I'm lucky to have them. Okay. This is a salt marsh. That's kind of me walking along the salt marsh. Anybody here ever walk on a salt marsh before? Yeah, so maybe a third. Anybody here walk on a salt marsh in their bare feet before? You did? In high tide, higher tide, in the muck?
All the above.
Yeah, what, how do you like that in the high tide muck?
I like it better now than I did maybe 25 years ago.
Really?
More used to it.
You're used to it, yeah. Here, it's okay, you know, it's not bad, but they picture like a lot of little pockets of, especially in high tide, you can't really see the grasses, you're just walking through water, but you're walking on a marsh and it's mucky. It's almost like quicksand. So you can, your feet, at least mine did, would get sucked down and I would sort of lose my balance. Now, like as an older person, you don't really want to climb ladders and you don't really want to fall. So those are like some of the challenges that I had to overcome, but you do what you have to do for the birds. And so where are we here? Here's a tip. When walking through the marshes, always remember to wear your boots. We did wear our boots, especially because we start going out in April. It's cold, you know, it's cold here on the Cape and in Massachusetts in April. So I, you know, had on, you know, winter hat, jacket, and my mud boots till the summer. Here are some, so let me backtrack a little bit and tell you about how I got to even want to paint them. My husband and I had moved to South Dartmouth, and we had always passed by this estuary in Westport. We didn't know, but we'd seen a lot of osprey flying overhead. That's about all we knew. And I said one day, hey, why don't we go for a kayak out there? Wouldn't that be fun? So yeah. It was around my birthday. So it's around mid-August. And this is my kayak. And so we went, and in mid-August, if you picture 100 nests on this river, approximately, they don't all make it. They're not all occupied. They don't all have fledglings, but a lot of them do. So 2 adults, and you have 2 to 3 fledglings, all learning how to fly around early to mid-August. So the sky was literally filled with ospreys that day. And it was just so spectacular that even though I hadn't painted anything really seriously in a long time, probably, you know, maybe little tiny paintings, I decided I have to paint them. They're so beautiful. So I was taking these photos. These are some of the photos. This one made it into a painting. This one made it into a painting. This one was in the Rhode Island Watercolor Society jury, not the photograph, but a painting that I made from that one. This one just sold the painting. So I was really inspired and I decided, hey, I think I'm gonna paint those ospreys and I'm gonna donate my paintings to nature organizations. No. Okay. Never was in a gallery, never sold a painting in my life, hadn't painted in 30 years. But that was my plan. That's what I was going to do. So a friend of mine, I joined a little art club. I joined a book club. We were new to the area. And one of the women said, hey, would you be interested in donating one of your paintings? I was giving a demo. Would you be interested in donating one of your paintings to this Westport watershed art show? It was a fundraiser. Sure. Do you think I'm good enough? She's like, oh yeah. Just, you know, just enter. Well, so I entered a painting, or I gave them a painting. It didn't get any bids for a whole week. I was like, okay, that dream's out the window. I guess that's not going to happen. And then on the very last night, it won the highest bid of the show. And I was over the moon. I was just like, wow. I was just jumping up and down with joy. It was really, really exciting. I thought, well, maybe that can happen. And so here's just a more recent one. I'll show you some of the others that I did. But this is a really good book, by the way. I know people here are probably maybe more birders than creatives, but maybe the two go hand in hand. You want to learn a little bit more about the mindset of creativity. This is a really good book to read. And we're in the library, so maybe they even have a copy of it. Rubin said, surrender to forces greater than you that constantly whisper in your ear if you take the time to listen. I listened. Oops. I want to go back. Uh-oh. I knew that was going to happen. Hold on. And she left me just in time to not be able to fix it. Here we go. So we're going to go here. Sorry, technical difficulties. Please stand by. So I get to see the slides over again. There we go. So I decided with that in mind that I was going to enter an art show that they had at the Cape Cod Museum of Art. This is the painting that I entered. There were maybe, I don't know, 10 different countries from around the world, 800 different people that entered from all the states in the US. They picked my painting, which again was another, like, this was just a few months later. I was kind of blown away. I'm sure you've been there. It's magnificent. I'll actually be giving a talk there too in a couple weeks in early August. The name of the exhibit, though, what the call to art was what attracted me to participate in tandem. So they were looking for art that represented two or more things working together for a desired result. Thought, Osprey, platform built by man, working together, helping bring the this sounds like a fit. And I did, and I got in. But the reason I'm showing you this, besides the fact that, you know, I'm very proud of that, is what they did that night. So the reception was wonderful. And they had each artist who was there give maybe a 2 minute, you're really limited to your time, talk about your process of art. So, you know, some people talked about, well, you know, I use a palette knife, or I was inspired by this. So I wanted to show you what I read, because this was the first time that I realized that I could use my art for education and for the environment. So I read this about the Ospreys resurgence on the South Coast, how it's so inspiring. And some of the people here, I think, probably know that. You probably have memories of when there weren't many osprey on the Cape or in New England, because in 1964, there were only 11 pair left in all of Massachusetts. Wow, that's a wow. Because, and I remember reading that stat and going, oh my God, really? You just don't realize it was that recent and that it was that bad, along with many other songbirds and many other raptors. But the good news is that, you know, Rachel Carson wrote an amazing book. President Kennedy then put together the EPA. Nations around the world worked together to ban DDT and pesticides. And then all the scientists and volunteers around on the Cape and elsewhere, there were, you know, movie stars lining up to get platforms built on the Cape, and they would have viewing parties in their backyard of ospreys. Well, that's kind of cool. I think that's interesting. Anyway, I didn't say that part. I'm telling you that part. So they, so then I ended with, we all must work in tandem to not only reduce nitrogen levels in our wetlands, but to do everything we can to stem global warming. And so I really was very much aware of this as I'm moving in and moving through this project with Mass Audubon. So here's a volunteer. This is Gina Pertel out of Mass Audubon on the South Coast Osprey Project. She heads it. This is a little sketch I did of the Lucky Me, the boat that we were on. So you can see here's the dreaded ladder. Keep the anchor up here, and there's a seat here and a seat back here for us to, it's a small boat. This was a historic day for me. My very first chick, up close and personal, in the nest this far away. I know we can see them on Osprey cams, but I recognize what an honor and a privilege it was to be that close to an Osprey chick. Not many people in the world get that opportunity. So here they are, there's two, and there's another egg that hasn't hatched yet. I did a little painting of it. And, oh, this one, I have to, hold on a second. I have to get here. Do the sound quality because it's important. Okay, ready. I don't know how I'm going to press these two buttons at the same time, but here we go. There they are. So that was super cute. I'm gonna play that one. Well, I'm not gonna play it again because I don't want to screw up my screen. Anyway, that was really, really fun to see. Has anybody had that opportunity to see them close up like that? No. Yeah, it's amazing. So here, they will toss the eggs out, the eggshell out, along with other stuff. That's a little bit of how we can tell how old they are. On the day that they started to let, oh, Amy, oh gosh, don't know how to, oh, maybe backspace. Ah, I did it, backspace, okay. On the day that they let me do the data sheet for the first time, I was really excited. I felt a little bit like a scientist. And it was very scientific wording that they use to collect the data. E for egg, C for chick, and P for pit. This is a pit. This is the data sheet. And so these are the ones in yellow. All the nests are numbered. The ones in yellow are the ones we're going to be checking that day. So it's usually between 7 and 15 nests that we check at a time. We don't check all 100. All 100 are checked within probably a 2 to 3 week period, and then we go back again. So this was that day. This was April 13th. This is not this day, but this is a previous day. And so these are the numbers of the nests. We have little plaques attached to the platform that number the nests. And this is the order that we're going to visit them, because you don't want to go over here and then over there and then over there. Matt, who I showed you, is determining, well, I think there are going to be some chicks now, because we can tell by when the osprey arrived, because they all arrive at different times during the spring. So this is the order, and then we write these things down. How many eggs did we see? 0 eggs, 0 eggs, 2 eggs, no data. The other thing that you should know, and maybe you already know this, is that osprey, you know, we hear that they mate for life. We hear that. We love them because they're family. They have wonderful family values. The dad, you know, goes out, the dad anthropomorphize the heck out of them, but the male goes out and captures a fish and he eats it by himself, half of it anyway, or the head. Then he delivers it to the nest because he needs energy too. And the female will take a little bit. If you've watched the webcams, it's astounding what she does with these huge, huge talons and the chicks that are this big. And she's, you know, taking this tiny little piece of fish flesh and feeding it to them. But they don't necessarily mate to each other, because they when they migrate first, the males go, first the females go. They've done a lot of hard work feeding, so they leave maybe August-ish. Then the males go, and then the fledglings go on their own. They mate to the nest. So if it was a successful nest from the year before, they will meet up that following spring at that nest, the same male and the same female. So these are all things that I learned. I'm not, again, not an ornithologist, but this is true. This is a fact. Except the the fledglings don't come back that spring. They come back 2 to 3 years later. So they're all migrating. Our ospreys migrate. Ospreys that live in Florida probably do not migrate because it's, there's food there all the time. But the ones that are from our area migrate thousands of miles. They could go to South America. They could go to Central America. One migrated to Africa from Massachusetts to Africa in like 10 days, I think, 2,000 something miles in 10 days. So that's a little bit, those are some more fun facts. I'll tell you more fun facts as we go along because I think they're interesting. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about just for a minute is why are we so interested in exactly when they've hatched? Because part of that translocation project is, as I said, moving about 12 chicks from Massachusetts to Illinois. We have to move them when they're around just between 5 and 6 weeks old. Why? Well, they have to be ready to eat on their own. You'll hear about that in a few minutes about why that is. But they have to be able to actually take the flesh off the fish themselves and swallow it, not have their parent feed them. That's number one criteria. Number two is they can't have fledged yet. They can't have flown yet. And we are very, very careful about not wanting them to flutter out of the nest before they're ready to appropriately start to fly because they could get harmed. They have enough enemies. We don't need to do that. The other thing I should mention is this is, when I was saying about being afraid of the ladder and all that stuff, the thing also is drilled into your head as a volunteer is you have to go fast. Every minute that you're there and around these nests stresses the ospreys. Now they're not attacking us as some wild birds will. I remember a blue jay growing up. A blue jay used to attack us when we were hanging things on the clothesline. It was like, we were afraid to go out in our backyard. But these didn't come that close. They swoop down, but they're agitated and they're stressed. And that's not part of good science to stress the birds. Fine. You're going up and down, so I'm just taking one quick little picture and then I'm down. So that's another thing. Here is Matt. You'll see him. He's removing some trash from the nest. We always do that if we see trash in the nest, and it's very disturbing if you're looking at a nest cam. And here he is also going up to peek into the nest, and you'll see it. I think you see one. Yeah, see it kind of came in the corner of the screen. They don't get that close, which is nice. Okay. Whoops. Backspace. Here's Alexa. She's from the University of Maine. Here's a few week old osprey chick. You see this line on their back, so that's how we're aging them. This is really good camouflage from one of their main foes, which is a great horned owl. When their predators are looking overhead, they just hunker down when the parents aren't there, and they look like a bunch of sticks. That's really what they look like. So sometimes you don't even see them right away. You're like, where are they? And then they move a little bit. So this is Alexa. She, all the young people that I met were wonderful. I want to put a plug in for them because they were this generation of scientists really caring, really interested in helping the environment, and very kind to me and to each other. It was delightful to be with them. But I will say that, so Alexa, unfortunately, did not bring her boots. She was wearing that day some brand new pair of Birkenstocks, and they were lavender. And I remember when she got on the boat, I wasn't going to be that person. I was like, oh man, I don't think that's a good idea. Well, we almost our first stop, she sort of stumbled out of the boat. She had the ladder. She was okay. She fell in. And we're like, Alexa, are you okay? She's like, yeah, I'm okay, but I lost. And then as I'm watching her sandals just like kind of floating by me in the boat, and I grabbed it and I was like, oh, here you go. But she ended up taking them off. And she just went out there by herself. Matt was really putting her through her paces. He was making her carry the ladder and do all kinds, like he was like, yeah, you're gonna do this, it's gonna be your career. You need to learn that this is what the career is. So it's really fun and sweet until it wasn't. This day, though, I will share something on a more serious note. That day, and you know, nature's like this, right? Sometimes nature will break your heart. It's not there to give us pleasure. It's there to exist. And so that day we were checking nests, and some of the chicks were failing in some of the nests. We found 2 dead chicks, and they were about the size I just showed you. One I saw was like, you know, kind of at the corner of the nest, its tongue hanging out. We knew it was kind of not going to do so well. We don't know why. Could have been inexperienced parents, could have been food related. They weren't catching. Maybe it was a lot of days of rain and they couldn't go out and get fish. We don't know. But then as we turn the corner of the river, and the river has a bunch of bends, Alexa said, oh my God, what is that? I think that's a dead osprey in the water. And it was. This was really very, very sad. This is us pulling up to it. Here it is. Here is Matt trying to check it. What had happened was that the osprey saw a fishing lure in the water that fishermen or women had left behind. And their talons are really designed to, you know, not let go of things. Once they grab something and they kind of have it, then they don't know how to drop it. It's hooked in, you know, it's just, that's how nature designed it. And so we think what happened was it rose and then it came down, and then it rose and then it came down, because the fishing line was wrapped like a spool of thread. That's how much he must have thought. And I say he because we can identify male versus female. Female have, as probably some of you know, more of a spotted chest, necklace of spots. Males do not have that. And males are also smaller than females. And the males do most of the providing at that time of the year. So we know it was a male. The other sad piece of this was that the week before, the data that we had collected showed a female osprey and 2 eggs. And so that act wiped out basically a whole family's chance for a reproductive cycle. He was 8 years old. He was one of our Westport ospreys. We know because he was tagged by us. And the coincidence of that was that we found him on the East Branch number 31. He was hatched on the West Branch number 31. So it just was, I can't even really describe how traumatic it must have been for that female to watch her mate struggle like that, but also for us, that it's one thing when nature kind of takes care of stuff. It's another when human carelessness or carelessness basically, or intention affects such a magnificent bird. So we were very upset. We're very sad. Let's see. Here we are documenting, recording. This is, you know, the bird again. It was just awful seeing it. And that is a little bit more of a close-up. You can see, here's the band. Here are the talons. This is the size of a fishing lure. This is a sketch that I did afterwards, I think really just to process my own stuff around it. The thing that I found interesting, even in the face of that trauma, and I see some puzzled looks, why is this red? Like, what the heck is this? So Matt had to detach some of the talons. In order, Gina, the head of the project, had asked us to bring back the lure to the field house. For whatever reason, she wanted it, she wanted to report it. So he was there for like 10 minutes trying to get this osprey untangled from the lure. And if you think of their claws or their hands, it's almost as if the black part is made of keratin, like our fingernails. So it's really light. It's light as air. So he would slip that off. So if you pictured my hand having fingernails all the way down, right? And then taking the fingernail off, that would be the red. And that makes sense, right? For the grip strength that they have, the grip strength that is many, many, many times the strength of a human hand. Multiple. I can't remember exactly what do you remember? So multiple grip strength. So this is, so that's that. We're going to go to happier things now. That's another really nice kid, Elijah. Next time we're out on the river, you can see just another view, another different view of the marshes. It's gorgeous out there. It's always kind of fun coming back at the end of the day. You just feel like, I just spent all that time in nature. You go a little faster and then you see, see bald eagles and all kinds of stuff just kind of soaring out there. So finally, it's banding day, and I'm going to give you a banding demo in just a minute. Anybody ever hear a talk by Dr. Alan Poole or know who he is? He is a world-renowned osprey expert. He's written 2 books that are this thick. He worked at the Cornell Ornithological Society doing he's really a brilliant man. But he's a character. He's kind of like he is. Like I said, he's like an Indiana Jones and a Crocodile Dundee. He kind of is. This is him in his boots that are probably like 50 years old. Okay. And he's like, okay, we're going to go fast, people, today. We got to go fast. Okay. But what else will we do? So he had slept overnight on his sailboat. It was like a thunderstorm. That's it. Here is what a band looks like up close. So you see it numbered. It's federal band. Matt's taking down some data. And I am going to, this is wingspan. So when we band these birds, just so you know, they are not that cute little chick that I just showed you. They are almost adult size when we band them. Their wingspan is about 66 inches, which I actually measured. My wingspan is just about 66 inches. I'm 5'7", so maybe it's a little bit less. So that's the wingspan that we're dealing with. And their talons are super duper sharp. Their beaks are super duper sharp when we are banding them. So I am going to need a volunteer from the audience to help me show you. I'm gonna put on my little hat too. This is the hat. This is my hat that I wore on the river all the time. So now I look a little more official. So I would like a man to help me because we're doing great on time. And thank you for your patience. I need someone. Where can we stand? I guess stand right here, Amy. Yep. To show. So I need somebody to come Who, any men in the, you, I know you want to do it. Sorry. Okay. So you stand right here, sir. What is your name?
Pull his fingernails out.
It's Harry.
I'm not. Harry.
Start turning red.
No, it's Harry.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so this is what we use, and this is an exact replica. You'll see it in the photo, except theirs is green and ours is white. So this is almost like a swaddle. So you're gonna hold it. You wanna hold it this way, and I'm gonna retrieve our osprey, and then we're going to Velcro the osprey in, okay? And we're gonna weigh him, and we're also gonna band. So you just stay right there, Harry.
Okay.
And I'm going to retrieve our osprey. I did not bring a live one. They, they're federally protected, so I couldn't. But, and they're this much bigger. Okay, so from the feet, they're about that much bigger. So we go over to the nest, and the parents are soaring overhead, and there's 2 or 3. And I'm not doing this. Harry is me. I am Gina or Matt, who knows what they're doing. Because one of the other things you need to know is osprey have crops. What's a crop? So when their parents are feeding them, some of the bones are also in the crop till they regurgitate it later. If there's a full crop, we don't ban them. It's very dangerous. They can asphyxiate. So first thing they do is look, have they just eaten or not? Nope, they're good. Then we take, they take them, like a loaf of bread. This is what I was told, like a loaf of bread. They are keeping their wings, you know, kind of close to their body, so they're not flapping out of there, but sometimes they are a little bit. And then they're kind of putting them like this. Now, they're also now climbing down that tall ladder, another reason I don't know how to do it, with the osprey in their hand. And then I'm over here, and I'm so excited. So is Harry. And we're putting the osprey into, very carefully, because we don't want to get nicked by either the beak or the talons. So, okay, now you can see if you can, so it's on this side. Yeah. All right. Now, Harry, I'm going to have you hold it so gently, so gently. Perfect. Okay. And then the first thing we do is we're going to weigh the osprey. So there are these 2, I mean, these scientists are so funny. They cook this up. You can't buy this on Amazon, right? No, this is like they invented it. So we're taking the loops, putting them through there, and then I'll say, okay, Harry, ready, let go. Okay, let go. And then you can, Harry, read how much, nope, just leave them. How much does that weigh?
1 to 2 pounds, approximately.
Approximately 1 to 2 pounds, approximately. Thank you. Now you can gently, yes. And then, so this is all again happening fast. We're folding this down to expose their very sharp talons. That one does not have sharp talons. Thank goodness. And I just made these out of, you know, Reynolds wrap, aluminum foil, but the ones are made out of aluminum as well, and they have a number on them. And you sort of are unhitching them, and then Matt is doing this while I'm holding it. And he's putting it on like that, and then he's got like a little pair of pliers that's crimping it closed, not too tight, but it's got to still be round because it's got to last till it's an adult. And then, okay, so Harry, we're gonna undo him, unhitch him so I can put him back in his nest. Yep, yep, unhitch. Yep, yep. And you, okay, fold that out. Let's get his head out carefully. Okay, and then here he is. And then we're just gonna put him back in the nest. Thank you, Harry. And that's how it's done. And the exciting thing for me was I could feel that Osprey's heartbeat under my fingertips. And I touched his ankle and stroked his wing and was in Osprey heaven. It was incredible.
Are they wriggling around while you're trying to do this?
They, it's funny, I think as almost like, how bunnies kind of freeze, they kind of just freeze up. Some of them are a little bit more of a feisty, little bit, but they're not like trying to claw you or trying to attack you in any way. That's a good question. They get all fluffed up. This is some photos of them right after. And they sort of like, what? What did you just do? And as you can see, I didn't lie. This is what that looks like. Same thing, but just green. So a little bit more about translocation. Here's Dr. Ting. She is the chief professor and in charge of the recovery project at the University of Illinois. So she comes out from Illinois on the plane. And we have we went out to dinner with her the night before. And I said, well, how does this even work? Like, what is this? And she said, well, they stay when they come to us, when we get them transported, they stay in hack boxes on a lake. So there are 2 hack boxes. There are 6 in each. And every morning and evening, their interns throw them fresh fish. And they eat. And that's why it's important for them to be able to self-feed at that time. So that happens for a while, so they just pick them up July, something like that. So it's a few more weeks to go before they're fully fledged. So they're in those hack boxes. And I said, well, how do you know when they're ready to fly, to let them go? Like, how do people know that? Because we don't want them being attacked by raccoons or owls or any of their other predators. And she said, well, I have my students and my interns count wing flaps. She's like, yeah. So they used to just say, oh, it flapped a lot, but that wasn't good enough. So now she has them recording the data. Week 1, chick A flapped 10 times. Week 2, chick B flapped 20 times until it's between 200 and 400 flaps a day that they are counting. So then they know, okay, it's time, we can let them out and they can go and they can learn how to hunt fish and learn how to fly. And they do, and they have. It's miraculous. I guess they don't need their parents to teach them how to do that because there were none there when they first arrived because they're endangered. So a little more about that translocation day. Again, I said it's really has to happen fast. This is our this is like a 4-page plan, believe it or not. So it's like, okay, Lucky Me, which is the name of the boat, departs from Westport Point in 2 boxes, then Pam and Alex meet Dick, Manchester, blah, blah, blah. So it goes on and on and on till all those chicks are picked up and brought back to the field station. I love this picture because this is Dick Manchester. He's been doing this for many years. He's in his 90s and Alexa is 20. And to see that intergenerational effort towards something really important environmentally, I think some of the data that we learned from doing that is really, I just love it. I think it's really exciting. So there they are. They're going out to meet Matt and Gina, who you saw, for collecting the chicks. And they're going to bring the chicks back to me. I'm going to stick the chicks in a cool place till they bring chick number 3. And then I get to put them in my car and drive them to the field station. And the reason this says pre-poop, well, has anyone ever smelled osprey poop before? Have you, sir? No? No, anyone here? It's bad. It is really rank. And one of the things that I was told, put tarp up the sides of your car because you don't want that poop on your car. It's my husband's car though, so, but I did it. And, one of their defense mechanisms as a chick is to poop at their enemies. Terns do that too. You're shaking your head. Other birds do that too, right? And so they poop right out, they launch themselves out. So it comes right out those holes. And there's a reason for that though. If there is a horned owl or a predator coming, they could get pooped in the face and be blinded by the poop, or at least maybe have the wings stick. It's their only defense mechanism that they have. So that's just a little fun aside that I thought I'd share with you. I can't really share the smell, but trust me, it was not good. Okay, here we are waiting at the field station. This is beautiful Allen's Pond. If any of you have ever get a chance to come to Westport, it's a great estuary and bird watchers haven. It's one of the hot spots on the south coast. That's where we meet. I thought this was cute. Little nest up there at the field station. We're sort of just waiting for the others to come and gather. I took that video because it had been thundering and lightning like an hour earlier, and I didn't even think we were gonna go. But so, New England weather, that's, can't count on anything. It changes. So here we are. This is Harold and Judy. They're part of my Pascamancet book club. Birding club. This is the Cessna. This is the plane that they come on, Dr. King in the plane. And somebody got the memo to put the plastic all over the plane. So there are 12 chicks going there. And you can't really see that, but the plane is going. So I wanted to, So I want to share the last part of that translocation story with you. How do the birds, well, first I'll say this, that summer, so we've been doing it for 5 years. Each year, 12 migrate somewhere from Illinois. We don't know where they go because we're not putting monitors on them, just bands. And people are asking Dr. Ting, what's the story? What's the deal with your ospreys? Are they ever coming back? And she's like, oh. Because it takes 2 to 3 years for them to reach sexual maturity, wherever they are, to then come back. So we kind of had to wait and see. And also, most migratory birds, sadly, only have about a 50% survival rate through their migration. So some of them aren't going to make it anyway. But will some of them come back? She told us at that dinner that night, that slide, a few slides before, that 2 had returned to Illinois of our ospreys and started families in Illinois. And so that brings us to the question of how do they know if they've hatched in Westport, how do they know to go to Illinois? Good question. Well, if you think about it, when they were in Westport, all they saw was the inside of the nest and their parents bringing them food. That's it. That's all they saw because they hadn't fledged yet. The reason why we take them before, one of the reasons why, before they fledge at 5 to 6 weeks. So apparently, when they're hunting in Illinois and when they're fledging, they're somehow, again, birds are, blow my mind that they can do this. They leave 2 to 3 years late. They make a mental map of where they are and where the good fishing was, if it was good. They go somewhere else and then they come back and they figure that out, how to get there. I can't even figure out how to get to Target without my GPS. I can't. I'm like, I can't. So mad props to them. They're amazing. So here we go. Volunteers, 60th bird to have returned to Illinois and Illinois. And that's one of my photos. There's some other photos from toward the end of the summer that I took that they're just so gorgeous. I can't stop photographing them. And so we have another 10 minutes, well, 10 to 15 minutes of the presentation. If it's okay, I'd like to do one more part of this presentation that I think is important. When as a therapist, so bring it back to my therapy. So now I'm gonna put my therapy back together. And so as a trauma therapist out on the river, I'm thinking all about the environment because I'm with these scientists that are talking about the environment all the time and what they do casually, just casually. I'm used to being a therapist. We don't really talk about the environment that much. Talk about trauma, not depression. So but you know, then that summer was like, oh my gosh, it's the hottest year on earth. And, you know, all the news was like filled with all this climate change stuff. Now that I'm noticing it, it's really filled with climate change stuff. Thinking, what can I do to help? What can my field of therapy do to help with the environment? And so I did some research and I imagined a therapy session with someone who is deeply impacted by climate change, what that might look like if they showed up in my office. And so I did a transcript. I can find it. There it is. And so it's very short. It's only like a minute or two. And I think we're gonna have to go over there though, Amy. You're gonna have to go off screen. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, people. You can hear us. Oops. And so I need a woman, this time volunteer, and who's going to pretend to be that client. I have the script. Right here. So it should be somebody that's comfortable in just reading like one page out loud in front of people, which I'm not always that comfortable, but somebody who wouldn't mind doing that. Oh, sorry, it discombobulated. So as you're thinking about who's going to be my fun volunteer, anybody have a hankering for having the award today? About a therapist who needs a little help, any woman in the audience? I will have to choose you. Okay, come on up. Down. Yeah. Thank you. And what is your name? Jen. So Jen, I'm gonna give you a chance. You're gonna be the yellow, so don't say anything right now. I'm just gonna give you a chance to read your script. Okay. And then I'm gonna take a drink of water. And I have a prop to give her. How are you feeling about that, Jen?
I'm surprised.
Okay, not yet. Jen is going to be Mother Earth. And I'm gonna be me. And Jen, I don't know where you want to put it, wherever, you can see her little big stuff. If this helps you get into character. Oh, thanks. What's that? All right, you ready? Hello, I'm so happy to finally meet you. Welcome to therapy. First, a few basic questions I have to get out of the way. This is an intake session. So can you tell me your birthday, please? If you don't mind me asking, how old are you again?
People always forget. I'm about 4.5 billion years old, give or take.
I don't think I've ever treated anyone in your age group before. Let's see. Do you have any existing family or support systems nearby, like maybe, I don't know, Mars or Venus? Something like that?
No, no one close by. Do you think that's funny?
No, sometimes I joke, but I'm nervous. Okay, so how many people are living in your household right now?
Now I'd say about 8 billion. It's a lot.
Oh, that is a lot. So I need to ask this next question for my intake form. It's a bit sensitive. Have you ever now or in the past been in an abusive relationship or experienced any trauma?
Let's see. How about being poisoned by plastics, pollution, and chemical runoff? Does that count? Or maybe you're referring to having acres upon acres of trees stripped out by deforestation? Green gases, anyone? What about losing between 10,000 to 100,000 species a year to extinction? Or possibly to
Okay, phew, wow. You sound kind of angry. I'm gonna mark that as a yes. And tell me, what are you hoping to get out of therapy?
To be honest, I'm feeling very distressed. My system is off. I've tried to adjust, but it's just not working. I can't keep up. I'm overwhelmed, exhausted, and depleted. To be honest, I'm a hot mess. I need help.
That sounds awful. How long would you say this has been going on for?
Not too long, maybe like the past couple hundred years.
The past couple hundred years. Okay. Well, go on.
Well, I'm sick of it. People don't care. They think I have endless resources. They treat me like garbage. I need a break. Some days it makes me sad, but lots of times I wake up feeling so frustrated and angry.
I bet. And how are you coping with all that anger?
Okay. Pretty obvious, isn't it? Remember Sandy, Katrina?
Oh,
I've been trying to show them, but
must seem like no one is listening.
that's because they're not listening. Well, maybe a few of them are, like that Greta something, a young woman. She's working hard. The scientists, advocacy groups, the kids get it, but not enough people are getting it, not even close.
Whew, that's a pretty big problem. I'm not sure.
I knew it. It's useless. I figured as much.
Yeah, wait a minute. Let me think. What if we could get more people to listen? And if we could get more folks to come together and just do a little bit more than they're already doing. Would that help? Would that even begin to help heal you?
That would be wonderful. You know, I love them so much. It's just I'm not sure how much longer I can keep going like this. I'm reaching my breaking point.
I'm so sorry for all we've done for you. You didn't deserve it. Been working so hard. Let's try to come up with a plan together, okay?
Okay. Thank you for listening. It means a lot.
Thank you. And thank you, Jen. Good job. So, you know, I do like that little script because, I mean, for me, once I started thinking about the earth as traumatized by us, it made sense for me what I could contribute. So really quickly, 2/3 of all Americans state that they rarely or never discuss the climate crisis with family or friends. Maybe this group is different, but I think many of us feel overwhelmed and we feel like there's nothing that we can do to help. And so what I'm thinking, and there's a lot more about this in my book, a few more pages anyway, is that maybe we just need to start connecting and talking about it with our family and with our friends and with our groups that we belong to, and I try to think about what are like 3 just basic, easy questions that people could remember. Well, what do you think is happening to the environment? That's kind of a good neutral opening statement. Like, what do you think about it? What are you doing to help? That one assumes that people are doing something, because I think everyone is doing something. I really do. But it also is a way to get some really great ideas on what more you might be able to do, or to offer ideas to other people about what they could do. For example, Gina, the person who runs the Mass Audubon, I remember that on that dinner with Dr. Ting, she said, oh, I need to run out to my car to get something. I'm like, well, what? So she came back with a container that she uses when she goes out to eat to bring home leftovers in. So she doesn't take the styrofoam container that most restaurants will give you. Something really simple like that, but she role modeled that for me. And now I do that too. I can't say do it 100% of the time, but probably 80–85% of the time I remember to bring my container with me now. Those little small actions matter. It all matters because we're all connected. Is there something more we can do together? That question is because you might not want to do more alone, but maybe you'll go to that meeting with someone, or maybe you'll, sign up to write postcards, or maybe you'll testify. A lot needs to happen legislatively, and also holding our big corporations accountable, all that stuff, because we can't do it alone. But what we can do is band together, and our group join another group. So this is a therapist definition, specializing in treatment. Could we picture ourselves as nature therapists, citizen scientists, volunteers? And here's the last, one of the last slides. So you, awareness and action, just coming here today and listening to this talk. And then you and family and friends, having awareness, modeling for each other, your actions. It's huge when one person gets solar panels in a neighborhood. Hey, I guess maybe I should look into that. When one of your friends gets an e-car, hey, that might be a good idea. And third, you plus community, you friends and community, awareness, modeling, and also really important, connection and actions. And then that just goes around and around. And oops, I always do this when I'm local, because there's so many people in the book. So probably nobody here. And that's me when I got a really great review from Cy Montgomery, who is a naturalist. She reviewed my book for me. It's on the back cover. I was like, oh my God. I was taking a walk. So that, I don't know if that's the best question, but I mean, the best picture to keep up there. So questions now, we can take questions before if you want to buy some books, I'll be here buying books, but questions from any of you. Yes.
I got one, but it's maybe a technical question.
I can try.
Do ospreys have really good eyesight? And the reason I ask that is when they hunt, do they see a fish that's just under the water a little bit and they come down and grab it, or do they actually dive into the water?
No, they dive and yes, they have great eyesight. They have a nictitating, I think I'm saying that right, nictitating, is that right, Sue? Eyelid that covers their eye as they dive. They have nostrils that close like nose plugs. They have an 85% success rate of diving, and they can only go 3 feet deep. That's it. They can't dive way down like our loons and diving ducks. And what else did I want to say about that? They somehow account for the refraction of light in the water. How? I can't grab a key if it's in my pool, right? I don't have a pool anymore, but when we used to have a pool, if something fell in, it's like you can't grab. They have all that down. So I think that's a great question. Did I answer it?
You did.
Okay. Other questions? Yes.
We've noticed that, like when you take the chicks from the nest, does that cause any distress to the parents?
That's a great question. I think what we never, well, we always try to leave two. You know, if there's three in the nest, we leave two and take one. So not taking the last chick. You know, they get chicks snatched all the time by the great horned owls and all kinds of stuff. So I don't think, as long as there's one or two left, I think they're okay. The nice thing that happens is the chicks that remain get a benefit of more fish because they don't have to split it up around three. And the ones that, you know, go to Illinois have, you know, field days. They're getting, you know, they're guaranteed twice a day. They're not even waiting for their dad to come back with the fish. They're like, there you go. So, good question. Other questions? Yes.
When you said that if one of the mates died, the other still will come to that same nest?
It might, yes. Well, sometimes.
Well, then what, is it that, like, okay, that was the male that died. The female comes back to the nest, it'll just be like a random other male will come and.
Yeah, it could.
Yeah.
It could. Males are more apt to be more nest attached. So we do try to take the males to translocate, if that makes sense. They're also, you know, we think that they're not always monogamous. Sometimes they have little side gigs going on. And so, you know, but typically, if they raised a family together successfully, both will return. In that case, I'm not so sure the female would come back because she didn't raise a family successfully. I don't know whether she would. I'm not really sure.
I have just a comment. That
Sure.
picture that
Yes,
I gave
please.
in our backyard.
Yes.
We affectionately named them Flossie and Aussie. And I think
Flossie and
Flossie has an affair with somebody that's.
It could very well be. They do what they do. And the males are sort of courting females also in the beginning. So they are bringing branches for the nest before the chicks, before they're even fertilizing the egg. They are providing food for that female osprey. And she's like, oh, okay, I get, and that's good. I guess he'll be a good provider through the season. He knows how to fish. Other questions before we wrap up? No? Thank you so much for coming. You're a wonderful audience.